Good evening. Saturday evening here on my end as I'm recording this. And so today we are going to continue in our series of looking at how our dimension of human beings is influenced by the dimensions of the other entities among whom we live. And yesterday we talked about dwarves, elves, and men. And we talked about how that is the evolutionary track for the human soul. We talked about what dwarves really are when you go back into the original indigenous spirituality of our pre-Christian ancestors. We talked about what elves are, and we talked about men, human beings, and how all three of those classes of entities are very closely connected, and they're connected on an evolutionary track. So today we're going to look at a different track. We're going to start from the realm of the celestial deities, what we would call the gods, and how they influence human beings and how they relate to the denizens of the underworld, which we are calling for brevity's sake demons, but there's many other classes of beings that live in those worlds. So to get a better understanding of this is from a shamanic perspective, and I use the word shamanism in a very generalized sense. And if you're new to this channel, we teach an understanding that we human beings live in a world that is being bombarded by 8 other dimensions. And these 8 other dimensions and other indigenous practices are called the worlds of the world tree. And so let's take a look at the thunder wheel and take a look and see where all these worlds are. Okay, so we're going to be dealing with the arc that goes from the northeast to the southwest. And every one of these arcs, whether we go in a diagonal fashion or in one of the 4 cardinal directions, each one of these relationships between the worlds cuts through the middle yard, Midgard, Middle Earth. This is the dimension that we live in as human beings. And so we take a look and see how though all of these different worlds interact with our own. Today we're looking at how the realm of the celestial deities, the fort of the celestial deities, in my ethnic tradition it was called Asgard, which means As, which means celestial deity, and Gard, which is where we get the English word yard from. And yard didn't just mean what you have, behind your house. It was a fortress. We have fences around our yard, our little enclosure. Your yard is your little fortress for your home. So Asgard is the fortress of the celestial gods. The fortress of the celestial gods faces directly through the world of human beings and to the world of the underworld denizens. Hell home. The word hell does not mean the place of eternal torture. It was a word used by the indigenous religion of Europe, and it represented the underworld, the realm underneath all of them, the realm where the souls go when they have unfinished business before they reincarnate back into the middle yard, into Middle Earth. And so the relationship between the northeast to the southwest is a very important one. And as we talked about yesterday, the relationship between the northwest to the southeast, which was the home of the elves and the home of the dwarves, and it cuts right through the home of human beings. This arc is a two-way street. So you have energy that goes from the southwest, which is the subconscious, the southeast, which is the subconscious mind, and it travels to the northwest, which is the higher mind. And the higher mind also sends energy from its source down into the southeast, and human beings are in the middle. So that from the southeast to the northwest is a two-way street. But the realm of the northeast to the southwest is not a two-way street. That energy only flows in one direction. The fort of the celestial gods, I can't show you here, but there are two tracks of energy that go from high to low. And there are two circles superimposed on each other, and one is the circle that deals with the diagonal directions, northeast to southwest, northwest to southeast. That is a circle in and of itself. The highest point of that is in the northwest, and the lowest point of that one is in the sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself here. The diagonal directions has its own circle of energy, the highest point of which is in the northeast, in Asgard. The lowest point is in Helheim, in the southwest. And the realm of the celestial, the ancestral masters in the northwest, and the dwarves in the southeast, that is, even though there is a difference of elevation, it's almost the same as it being, flat. So there's a two-way street. When you have a real high and a real low, that is not a two-way street. And so in the circle that goes around the thunder wheel, I know I'm not explaining this very well, but the circle that goes around the thunder wheel that only deals with the diagonal directions, the highest point is in the northeast and the lowest point is in the southwest. So take a look at this, and instead of looking at all of the 8 limbs like you see here, just imagine an X. Okay, just look at the diagonals. The highest point will be in Asgard, the lowest point will be in Helheim. Just imagine that in your mind as you take a look at it. Okay, we're not going to get into this today, but there is another circle of energy in the thunder wheel that is superimposed on top of that, and that is for the cardinal directions. And so imagine just, a Celtic cross, something like this. This is superimposed with the other X that's in between. You put the two of them together and you get all 8 limbs. Okay, see that? In this one, the high point is in the south, which is fire, and the low point is in the north. And then the two that are on the same plane are the east and the west. We're not going to be talking about any of those today, but I want you to get that in your mind, that there are these 2 circles of energy superimposed on top of each other, one dealing with the diagonal directions and one dealing with the cardinal directions. Okay, got that? So whenever you have that kind of scenario, the high point to low point, that is not a two-way street. Those energies are not meant to come together, because if they did, that would mean that there would be war. So if we were to open the floodgates of Helheim and let the denizens of Helheim into Midgard, what would happen is that the denizens of Asgard would swoop down into Middle Earth where we are, and they would seek to annihilate each other. And we would be in the middle. Now, you say to me, well, but that's happening, and you go off about whatever it is, something that's happening politically, or people are being harmed, or people or whatever. You can bring up many, many examples of how this battle between good and evil is already happening. But trust me, if it were to be completely opened up, it would be like, as the most famous politician of our modern times has said, it would be like nothing that we, how does he put it? It would be unlike anything we've seen, something like that. He likes to use that phrase. The likes of which you have never seen. That's what would happen. So as bad as things may seem to you, trust me that the power of Asgard is shining down onto the underworld and keeping the underworld from bubbling up into our world. So now we're talking about it on the physical plane. So remember that we're dealing with spiritual concepts, and we do not live in a two-dimensional universe. We live in a multi-dimensional universe. So things can be one thing and can be something else at the same time. So we're talking about things from the external perspective. The internal perspective is that you yourself are the source of the entire universe. You are certainly the source of your entire universe. And so when we talk about Asgard and we talk about Helholm, we are talking about the superconscious mind and the unconscious mind. So I only talk about the three minds that we deal with, which is the conscious, the unconscious, and the subconscious mind. But we have a fourth mind, and that would be the superconscious mind. Listen, I'm not using Freudian or Jungian terms. I'm using these terms in my own definition. So to understand what I'm talking about, you have to watch more of my videos and stuff like that. By the way, if you're just tuning in to the live broadcast and you're new, please refrain from any comments, any communication. The only thing that I'd like to do here is have a question and answer. And so if you're just simply spouting your opinion, I will not identify you or repeat it. I'm only going to look for the questions. So please, if you have a question, write the word question and then follow it with a well thought out, well written question. And then I'll get to it. Okay, so what else do I want to say? So the unconscious mind is where you have all of your unresolved issues. It's not the, here's the thing about hell. Hell, H-E-L, not the Christian hell. Hell is not a place of utter torment. It's not just an evil, horrible place. We know this from the mythology because the sun god, Balder, actually his name is just Bald. That R on the end, it just means that it's a nominative case. His name is just Bald, which just means bold. And he represents the sun and also represents the soul. The soul represents pure fearlessness. So we could call him fearless. We don't have to call him Balder. We could call him fearless if we wanted to. So the god Bold, he is killed by his brother Ignorance, and he must go to the underworld, and there's a whole story about that. But when he gets to the underworld, there is feasting, and there is partying, and there is, rejoicing. So the unconscious mind is not just the place where all of your horrible things are. It is. That's the main thing that we focus on, is it has all of your unconscious issues, all of your fears, all of your unresolved childhood psychological issues, all of your past life issues, your karmic issues. It also has within it the seed for your greatest happiness that you're not aware of, the thing that you truly want. And one of the biggest problems that we have, and one of the major reasons that we incarnate, is to experience the challenge of learning the difference between what we think we want versus what we really truly do want. And this happens in the unconscious mind. And so that's why lots of times when you ask somebody, what is it that you really want? They say, I don't know, or I'm not sure. It's because there's a battle going on in the unconscious mind for them to experience that. Now, I can be, when I deal with people, I can be very direct, and I can sometimes feel, you experience me as being very harsh and critical. And what's happening is that I've got a limited amount of time. If you're working with me privately, like on the phone, I can still be direct then too, but I'm usually much more, for the most part. I know there's some out there going, hell no, I talked to him last week and he tore me a new one. But most of the time, I'm much more patient and kind and nurturing, and I take my time helping you get to the source of what's going on in your unconscious mind. But when you ask me a question here, I've got a limited amount of time, and so I try to cut through all the crap and get to it. And I do that for your benefit. The difficult part, there are people that want to email me. So if you're one of those people that wants to email me and have some kind of a dialogue with me in my email, you'll notice that most of the time I write back and I say, thank you, please go onto the live Q&A or onto the YouTube channel with that question so everybody else can, and I don't answer your question. If I do answer your question, it's usually to tell you that this is not the proper place, and if you want to have a dialogue with me about this, then you can go ahead and get a private session with me. If you want a private session with me, by the way, you have to go here, career.thunderwizard.com. And that's not just for a career. It can be for anything, relationships, counseling, I don't care what it is. Tips on Qigong or energy work, it doesn't matter. That's where you go for just to have a one-on-one private session with me. But what happens when people want to email me is that they don't really want to have a discussion. They want to dump on me their opinion, or they're wanting to defend themselves, or they're wanting to explain why things they said what they said and why things are the way that they are. And this is, you don't understand, you need to understand where I'm coming from. And all of that is a way to avoid really getting to the root of the problem. You're just justifying where you're at. And all I'm really seeing, by the way, if you ever do, and people do, I know, I'm not just talking about one person. I get emails all the time. That's why for some people it's hard for them to find my email, and I do that on purpose, because if I responded to everybody who wanted to email me, I'd never get out of my computer. I'd just constantly be giving people free advice over email. And the reason why I don't do that, besides the fact that I don't have the time and I have to work for a living, is because it doesn't serve you. It doesn't serve you because that's an easy way out. And so that's why if you really want to work with me, we have to create teacher-student boundaries and follow those, and then I can help you. But if you've sent me emails and I haven't responded, that's why. It doesn't serve you. I can't help you in email. I have to actually have a two-way discussion with you. So I kind of forgot what I was talking about. We're talking about that the underworld is not just the place where you have horrific punishment scenarios. By the way, you do. It's very clear that the underworld is filled with that, but they are self-generated. They're self-generated in your own life. Now, I know that you know people, that you see people, and you can, or maybe celebrities, you can look at them and go, why do they do that to themselves? If you have people in your lives, who come to you, or you hear them complaining about how the universe, the world, their family, their partner, the government is really doing it to them, and that blah, blah, blah. And, we don't have to go far to see it. We can go onto YouTube and we can find people talking about the Saturn moon matrix and the false beings of light who are, sucking the life force out of you, and you live in a matrix. And so the victim mentality is very easy to find. And so what I'm saying here is that we can look at a lot of those people and see that they're doing it to themselves. It's completely self-generated. You know, you could change your view on things or change your actions, and your life would be completely different. But you can see, when we look at them, we can see that they're trapped in their own self-made prison. And we wonder, why can't they get out of it? Well, the reason why is because they have unresolved issues in their unconscious mind. The unconscious mind is the mind you are not aware of. This is extremely important. So if somebody says to you, you have unconscious rage, you say, I'm not angry. No, of course you're not. It's called unconscious. If you were aware of your anger, it would be conscious rage. Somebody says you have unconscious rage, it means that they can feel the rage coming out of you, but you yourself are completely clueless on a conscious level. And usually if it's unconscious and somebody points it out to you, you get extremely defensive. Let me give you an example. Somebody who is a latent homosexual, that means that they're unconsciously homosexual, they're not aware of it, they've suppressed it. And if you mention it to them, that, you know, or you ask them, are you homosexual? They get extremely offended. And they'll go on and on about how they're not this and they're not that and they're not gay and how dare you. Now, that's a sign that there's something unconscious going on there. But if somebody is conscious of their sexuality and is comfortable with their sexuality, when you say, you know, are you homosexual? They'll go, nope. And then somebody says, I don't know, I kind of get like a bisexual vibe from you. And if they're comfortable, they'll go, well, if that's true, I'm not aware of it. But I mean, if it is, it is. I mean, I don't care. That's somebody who's not unconscious. They're consciously looking at it. Usually when people are unconscious about something and you bring it to their attention, they get very defensive. Again, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about right now. I'm just sort of talking in circles. So I'm going to open it up for questions. Before I do that, I'm going to take a short break. Bear in mind that if you want to communicate, please communicate with a question. Write a well thought out question, make it a smart question, and I will be happy to answer it, and we'll take it from there. All right, so I'll be back in a couple of minutes here. Alrighty, so we're back. Okay, so again, for those of you just joining us, what I really want to focus on today is how to use the ritual that I teach in using the thunder wheel, which is a representation of the 9 worlds, which is actually in multiple traditions, including European, East Indian Vedic tradition, the Taoist tradition of China, and in other places like in Mongolia, and I'm sure there's other places in the world as well. The 8 directions, each one of those directions has its own unique energetic signature. It's not arbitrary. This is scientific. It's scientific in the sense that shamans over thousands of years have looked at the effects of different directions and found that each of these different cultures have come to the same conclusion. They use different words, they use different symbols, but the meaning is the same. And in the Northern European tradition is no different. And I have created the thunder wheel to represent those 9 worlds. And so when you're doing ritual, let's say you want to work with the elves and the dwarves. You can work with the energy going from northwest to southeast. You can switch directions. You can face southeast and bring the energy back and forth. But one thing you don't want to do is if you're in the thunder wheel, the only direction you want energy to go is from northeast to southwest. And I can tell you from personal experience that you don't want to change that. When I was putting this together, I experimented in different ways, and I learned very quickly you do not open up the southwest energy and try to connect it to the northeast. You never do that. So I don't recommend that you do that. And one of the things we talked about last week was that the southeast, we were talking about yesterday, the southeast is called the human door. And that's why you see that this is the trajectory of the human soul from the southeast to the northwest. Today we are talking about the northeast to the southwest. The northeast and the southwest are called demon doors in Taoism. Now, why would that be? Well, the southwest is pretty obvious because that's the underworld. That's where all of your unconscious fears and everything, and where all of your demons exist, is in your unconscious mind. What about the northeast? Why is the northeast a demon door? Or actually, they call it a ghost door. But they mean ghost in the sense of the kind that haunt you, the kind that aren't supposed to be running around, the kind that cause problems, which is another way of saying demon. The northeast is a ghost door. And the reason for that is because the northeast has one primary function in the human being. And the primary function of the northeast is to keep a lid on the unconscious mind and to shine a light into the unconscious mind so that we can look at it and align it and become conscious of what's down there. But what you don't want is to have your unconscious issues come to the surface in an unconscious way, meaning, in a way that, you're not becoming aware of it and working through it. But just like when ghosts inhabit places, you can be haunted sometimes in a literal way by your own demons, by your own unconscious, unresolved issues. And so that's understandable. The southwest is, okay, we can understand why that's a ghost door. Why is the northeast a ghost door? Well, in some traditions, including the Vedic tradition, the northeast is the most sacred direction. And if you really want to create an altar that represents the highest divinity, you place it in the northeast. So there are 2 places, just default places for for an altar. One is the east and the other is the northeast. Northeast is the home of Jupiter, which of all the planets is the planet which is the priest. The southwest is the realm of Rahu, the trickster, who himself is called a demon. And the northeast, it is intense and it is very extreme. And so we use the intensity and the extremity of the brightness of the gods, the highest truth, the highest righteousness. We use that energy when the unconscious mind is starting to act up, and we are not able to keep our unconscious fears and false programming from invading our life. That's when worship of the gods, the highest gods, is powerful for us, because by doing so, that intensity and the purity and the piety involved in that will shine a light onto all of our unconscious fears and unresolved issues and our, whatever, our negative aspects, and keep it in check. But what happens when you've seen this, when people become too religious, when they become overzealous, when they become fundamentalist, Islam creates the modern version of terrorism. Fundamentalist Christianity in the Middle Ages created their form of terrorism. Fundamentalist religion creates all kinds of bigotry and exclusion and all kinds of horrible things. And so then we have to be reminded of things like forgiveness and equality and all that kind of stuff. So this is how the Northeast becomes a ghost door, because when you indulge in righteousness as a way to not deal with your own pain and your own fear and your own unresolved whatever, then what ends up happening is that the denizens of the Southwest actually come through the Northeast. And so to keep that from happening, we put an altar there. We put an altar in the Northeast so that we are forced to do our meditation. And the idea is we meditate to that power, and then we get an objectivity, and that also keeps our unconscious issues from bubbling up to the surface or coming through the back door, which I believe that Asgard has a back door to Helholm. And when we are not using the Northeast in a way that helps us become more objective and more expansive and more tolerant, because that is the main description of Jupiter is expansiveness and tolerance and generosity. So when we combine our spirituality with those things, then that automatically keeps that back door in Asgard shut. But when we get full of ourselves and we get self-righteous and our way is the only way, and we start judging people, then that back door in Asgard starts to open, and then the demons come through into Asgard, and then they become these self-righteous hypocrites who cause all kinds of damage. If you remember, I've shared this before, but I remember it was in the 80s. Jimmy Swaggart, maybe you may not know who I'm talking about, but Google him, Jimmy Swaggart. He was a very famous TV evangelist, and he would go on and he would rail about the sins of pornography and sexuality and lust, and he was so full of fury and venom about it until we found out that he had been, having sex with street hookers. And then he got caught, and then there's that very famous, you can look for it too, I have sinned against you. Type in I have sinned against you in Google, and you'll see videos of him with his lip quivering and him crying in a deep Southern accent and asking his wife and his kids for their forgiveness and all that. That's what happens when the Northeast is not balanced. You end up with hypocrites like that. So you can't escape the Southwest. You can't escape it. When I do a 9-world rune reading, which here's a picture of that here. Whatever rune is in the Southwest, if it's a reversed rune, that's a big deal. So it's really kind of, it's the lowest energy place. It's the realm of the deepest earth. And so that is where you'll either be grounded or ungrounded. In this particular reading, I don't remember whose it was, but you see in the Southwest here, the Tiwaj rune right side up. Which means that this individual had actually a high degree of awareness in there, that they were essentially completely aware of what was going on in their unconscious mind about whatever this reading was. I don't remember what it was. But whatever rune is in that Southwest placement, if it's reversed, that's a big sign that there's something that needs to be dealt with, because that area of the Southwest is going to tell you everything. It's your base, it's your foundation. If your unconscious mind is not balanced, then you are going to be in some kind of misery or real conflict. That's where it all comes down to. And again, we're talking about the unconscious. It means you're not aware of it. You could consciously think to yourself, I feel like I know what's going on, but your life will be in total chaos and you don't know what's what. This is why affirmations don't work. And I'm going to switch this here, so in case you're interested, you can go to either runereadings.thunderwizard.com if you want to get one of those rune readings from me, or you can go to transformation.thunderwizard.com, and then you can get an astrology reading and a 9-world rune reading. Two of them actually work together extremely well. At some point in time, I'm going to create a certification for all of this stuff. I'm slowly getting myself there. Created a certification for the astrology, which is astrology certification, I believe. Certification.thunderwizard.com. Whoops, that's not right. And the other certification, I believe, is runecertification.thunderwizard.com. All right. So there's a space in there. Don't worry about that. If I wasn't talking to you on the phone, I would be asking those boys outside to please take their skateboarding somewhere else. But I'm talking to you, so I'll have to restrain myself. Damn kids and their skateboards. Get off my lawn. Okay, so I forget what we were talking about. I'll take a look and see if we have any questions. So, again, if you're new to the channel, please only write down your questions. Not interested in your opinions. We don't have time for that. H. Metalmosh, looks like you're new to the channel. Welcome to the channel. You write a question. So it's like unconscious programming. So first off, please, if you're going to write a question, please put question so I can see it. And then write out your question, so that I understand what you're asking me. I don't know what you're referring to. What is like unconscious programming? Remember, I'm not watching you type as I'm talking. So I have to have some context. So if you need to ask me a question, put some effort into it. Write it out, and I'll be happy to answer it. All right, so Russo Van Royen, question. What is independence in conjunction with worshiping a god? I don't understand your question. There's an assumption there that if you worship a god, there is no independence. And then he goes on to say, once I had a dream where a woman asked me to leave a school with her when I'm ready to be independent, then a kid kind of evil. Again, if you're going to ask a question, please ask a concise question that makes sense. I don't know what you're asking me. So I can't answer your question. H Metal Mosh, please. Yeah, I've already addressed you. Okay, Nick Marshall, question: should people work on themselves and their own perspective, reality, ignoring other realities, or make the darkness in the world conscious? E.g., the organ harvesting in China. So what you're asking me is, should you be worrying about things that are out of your control? Do you have any honest influence over the organ harvesting in China? I don't. Um, here's the thing, there's always something. There's always going to be something going on in the world that is horrible, in your backyard and outside of your backyard, that you have little or no control over. We are only focused about dealing with ourselves. We don't even really have control over ourselves. But the closest thing that we have control over, if there's anything, it is ourselves. So you can't control what's going on out there. So focus on you. Don't focus on what you can't control. If you find yourself thinking about the organ harvesting in China and you want to do something about it, and you're not working like in the State Department, or you're not, you don't have some connections, or you haven't decided to go into public service, like one day you want to work for the State Department so that you can be able to accomplish something on an international scale. If you haven't planned on doing that, then why are you wasting your time worrying about things that you can't control? I make that, if somebody's destined to do that, then they will have the desire to do that. They will have the desire that I want to go work in whatever it is. I use the State Department as an example. If you're fearful of the deep state, then maybe you want to work for, some other international organization that, goes around helping people. If that's not your desire, then it's none of your business. You can't do anything about it. What it means is that if you bring that up, for instance, people having their organs harvested in China, I'm assuming, I don't know anything about it, but I'm assuming people get, bushwhacked and then dragged into a room, and then some butcher comes along and takes out their organs, and then they wake up in a hospital, or they wake up in a hotel room with their kidney gone. If that's what you're talking about, and you use that as an example, and you don't have the desire to go do something about it, it means that's how you feel about yourself. You feel that that is what life is doing to you. You think that life is harvesting your organs. And so it is helpful for you to take a look at that and ask yourself why you feel that way. And more so than that, change that. Change that victim mentality. Because if you are operating from your highest soul purpose, whether you live in China or not, your organs will not be harvested. The only way that these kinds of things manifest in people's life is if they have unresolved, unconscious, many times past life issues that they have to replay in this life to learn a lesson that their soul wants to learn. Not that God is trying to teach them. Their soul wants to learn something. And so they create these kinds of chaotic things so that they'll be forced to deal with something that they haven't dealt with, and they'll learn from it. But if you follow your highest soul desire, you don't have to go through that kind of nonsense. Okay? You don't have to create that kind of craziness for yourself. All right, please try to avoid talking to each other. RMS 1754 question: is it generally more helpful to do meditation or Qigong facing the northeast with intent to connect with higher power? It depends on your astrology. You can meditate facing the southwest. In fact, that's the direction I recommend people do the Hool breath and the Hool breath posture. Or one of the ways, it doesn't really matter which direction you face. But that is one of the ways to work with the unconscious mind and keep it balanced, is face the southwest and do the Hool breath. So again, to answer your question, I have to take a look at your chart, because what I need to see is, which planet we're talking about, where it is in your chart, what sign it is. That will tell me which direction to face and what element to use to worship that planet or get the benefit from that planet. Doku 007, how long have you been watching my videos? How many of my videos have you watched? Because you ask, first you don't ask question, I like you to put that, you didn't. Do each of the 8 directions have its own frequency? This is basic level stuff. I'm giving you a hard time because I see you on the Q&A a lot. And if you ask that question, it means that you haven't bothered to watch the videos. Okay? Now he retracts, he took his message away. He deleted his message. So that's an opportunity for me to point out to you that 95% of your questions will be answered in one of the 400 plus videos that I have on the free channel. And if you want to learn, you can go onto my channel and type in Thunder Wheel. That brings me to the next topic of, do you know how to search within somebody's channel? A lot of people don't, myself included, that didn't know how to do that. And depending on whether you're looking at a desktop or whether a phone or a laptop, there's different ways to do it. But if you just go onto YouTube and type in Thunder Wheel, who knows what the hell you'll get. You want to find it in my channel, you have to figure out how to go onto my channel, the one you're watching now, and learn how to search from within the videos in my channel. If you type in Thunder Wheel, Doku 007, you will learn about that very basic question. Short answer is yes. Each of the directions has its own specific property. Okay, so I don't see any more questions at the moment. We shall take a break and come back, and we'll see what happens. Okay, be right back. Alrighty, we're back. Okay, so I think there's some questions have arisen. Russo Van Royen question. With intent of following highest soul desire, if I am distracted, what is the way to remembrance beyond all external and emotional and mental influence? All right, so First off, to know how to identify the soul desire, I recommend this book, The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. Okay, so my question to Russo and to those who may have that question, have you watched the videos on that? Have you read that book? If you have, then you don't need to ask that question. To explain that, distraction, there's an assumption in there. Remember, everything, let's start from there. Everything in your entire existence is based on assumptions. So it is extremely important that you know what your assumptions are. For instance, if you have an assumption that gravity exists except on the edge of a cliff, and you believe that assumption, then there's a good chance you're going to walk off the edge of a cliff to your death. If you operate from the assumption that gravity functions especially on the edges of cliffs, then you will stay away from the edge of cliffs and you will probably not fall to your death. So if you're operating from an incomplete or a false assumption about any aspect of reality, then every decision and every conclusion you come to is going to be based on that incomplete or faulty assumption. So there's an assumption in your question that if you are connected to your highest soul desire, you will be easily distracted. And that, in my experience, is not accurate. So if you're asking that question, it kind of tells me that you haven't found what your soul desire is. Because once you find it, and then you embrace it, and then you begin to follow it, then it's going to be very hard for something or somebody to distract you. It's not impossible, but the way that we get distracted, here's how it works. You came into this incarnated life with a soul program desire that you gave yourself before you were born. You embedded within that soul desire joy, so that when you thought about it, it would give you joy. The way you know what your soul desire is when you ask yourself, if I didn't have to make any money and I didn't have to please anybody, and I could only do that which gave me the greatest joy, regardless of how impossible it was, what would I be doing? The first thing that pops to your mind that gives you joy is your soul desire. So what the problem is that lots of times people will talk themselves out of it because they believe it's stupid, it's silly, it's unrealistic. And what that means is that somebody in your life, a parent figure, somebody of authority, a wife, a husband, God, religion, somebody has told you that in order to be a good person, you can't do that. And so in order to be accepted by society, by your parents, by whomever, you talk yourself out of it. Now, I'm talking about it in very superficial terms, which makes it sound very easy, but it's not. There are people who die as a result of fighting with themselves over what it is they truly want. And I believe that is the source of all illness, is that there's a conflict within yourself about living to your soul desire or living for something or somebody else. And that conflict creates rage within you on an unconscious level, meaning you're not consciously aware of it. Some of the most unconsciously rageful people are people who are the biggest healers and helpers. The people you see running around helping other people and looking for people to save are running away from their own internal rage. These are the same people who end up with all kinds of nervous disorders and all kinds of ailments and depression. These are all signs of internal rage. The way to avoid internal rage is to follow that which gives you the greatest joy, and to take action towards it when all of your fears of losing your parents' love or the love of God or whatever comes up, because that's what's going to happen. So when you say being distracted and remembrance beyond all external emotional and mental influence, that sounds like religion to me. That sounds like if you were truly spiritual, like people try to do, they try and meditate and go beyond the lower vibrations of the earth, and that's just denial. They're just denying all the feelings that make them uncomfortable. So you don't need to work that hard. It's real simple. You just have to tap into what gives you the greatest joy. And it's okay if you don't know. It means you're in conflict. If you're confused, you're in conflict. And if you're doing halfway, if you're living in what I call compromise land, where you're doing something that's almost what you want to do, but not quite, and it's more practical, you're probably in compromise land, and you're still going to be rageful at yourself. So anyway, from that question, it strikes me that you haven't read the book, and it strikes me that you haven't watched the videos that I talk about. Because if you know your soul desire, you don't ever worry about that. You worry about, can you follow through? Like when people get a career consultation from me and I help them determine for themselves, because I just help you figure it out for yourself. I don't figure it out. You figure out for yourself what it is that you truly want. Then you have to actually go and do it. And that's the hard part. And that, I might not be able to help you with that as easily. I can help you figure out what it is, but you actually have to go do it. And that's the frightening part. We talked about that before. We can talk about it again if you need me to. Knut Karstensen question: have you heard about anyone spontaneously completing a pose / face a direction without knowledge? Sure. Why are you asking? How does that question help you? If somebody else has spontaneously faced a direction and had an experience of it, how does that help you? It's a very intellectualized question. Why not just learn it? Why not just go learn the thunder wheel and experience it for yourself? Why do you have to have that? That sounds like you want to get it without having to work for it. People who ask that question are the people who are like, well, I just want to look, I don't want to have to study it and learn it. I just want to face a direction and have it hit me. Can I do that? Maybe. Do it. Do the work. Don't overthink it. Okay. So we've run out of questions. So let's see what I want to talk about here. So we've talked about the Northeast being a ghost door. We've talked about the Southwest being a ghost door. I guess what I can talk to you about is, if you haven't watched yesterday's video, please go back and watch it. If you're watching this one and it's already been archived, go back and watch Dwarves, Elves, and Men, and then come back and watch this one. And I talked about that dynamic yesterday, the southeast to the northwest, and that interaction, because it represents the evolution of the soul, meaning that human beings will one day become elves. That if you are a human, at one point in perhaps the very distant past, you were a dwarf. And you have evolved. This is important to understand. If you're a human being, it means that you have evolved. You have put a lot of time and effort, perhaps thousands, maybe tens of thousands, maybe millions of years of effort to become conscious. And once you have become conscious, then you have the ability to become a human. So again, for anybody who feels like being a human is a victim role, and they complain about being a human, first off, I feel for you. I've gone through that. I understand that. The earth is the most intense school there is in the universe. So it's going to be challenging. But understand that when you are not in the body of a human, as a soul, you can't wait to come back here. You want to be here more than you want to be anywhere else. The gods look upon humans with envy, because the gods cannot have the experience that we have as souls. Souls are the most potentially evolved beings in the universe. So to look upon this temporary situation of being a human and to complain and act like a victim, it's a real waste of time. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that you shouldn't have your feelings. You should. In fact, I work very hard to help people be honest with themselves about their feelings. Uh, the negative ones as well, the sadness, the pain, the rage. It's important that you understand that and be able to identify it and own it. That's the only way you'll be able to move past it. But being a victim and indulging in being a victim is an incredible waste of time, and you will regret it. If when you leave this life, this is my guarantee to you, remember that I told you. When you leave this life, remember that I told you this. You are not going to be thinking about how much money you made. You're not going to be thinking about how good of a person you were, how righteous you were. You're not going to be thinking about how many girls you slept with or how many cars you drove or whatever it is, fame, fortune. You're only going to be thinking about one thing, which is, did I fulfill all of my desires? The way I put it is to have as much fun as you can possibly have. Did I have as much fun as I could possibly have? And if you spent a ton of your life feeling sorry for yourself and feeling victimized, and not taking the time to feel all those feelings and work through them, you're going to see that as wasted time. And then you will want to come back, but you will create more challenging circumstances for yourself, because pain is the greatest motivator. When you are in pain, the more pain that you're in, the stronger you want to be out of that pain. And so if the challenges of this life were not enough to wake you up out of a victim mentality, then when you're in between lives, you're going to figure out a more challenging life so that you will learn that specific lesson, whatever it is. I've shared this before. I find it incredibly interesting. People who have tried to commit suicide and survived, like people who jump off bridges especially. I loved reading this. Yeah, again, I don't remember exactly where I read it, but at least in more than one occasion, there was somebody who jumped off like the Golden Gate Bridge. A bridge that once you jump off it, that's it. See you later. And they survived. They may have, had broken ankles or broken legs or a broken face or something like that because they hit the water so hard, but they survived somehow. And what they said is that the moment that their foot left the bridge and that there was no turning back, once they made that decision and there was no way to take it back, within an instant they became aware of how they could fix all of the nonsense in their life. And they saw how their own indulgence in their own, self-pity and whatever else was preventing them from just simply enjoying their life. And they knew that they had wished, oh my God, I wish I hadn't done that. So those were lucky people because they got to stay in this life and work through it. Another one was a guy who shot, I don't know if it was a guy or a girl, but somebody that shot themselves in the head, and they survived incredibly. And as soon as they heard the click and that nanosecond where they knew that there was no going back, that they had shot themselves in the head, they became aware of everything that they could have done differently, and how that their self-pity, had blinded them from the solutions. So if you succeed, that's what's going to be waiting for you. Okay? So that's what's going to be waiting for you. And so the point is that you can, if you're still here, understand this is a school, and it's a school that has a lot of lessons to it. And the only way through it is to appreciate what you have and to understand what I'm trying to teach, which is that you have something which gives you the greatest joy. The greatest challenge you will face in this life is to go after your greatest joy, because your greatest lessons stand between you and your greatest happiness. And in order to get to your greatest happiness, you have to go through your greatest challenges. And a lot of people just don't have the chutzpah to do it. So it's hard for me first off, when I listen to, because this is what I do for a living, I listen to people's stories, and people email me their stories to try and tell me how horrible it is. And if I understood how horrible things are for them, I would understand, and I wouldn't be so harsh on them on the Q&As and whatever it is. But it's hard for me to have sympathy when I can hear in what you're saying that you have chosen to be a victim. It doesn't mean that I don't feel for the challenge, and it doesn't mean that I would want your challenge. I don't know what your challenges are. There's a lot of people who have gone through a lot worse stuff than I have from my perspective. And I wouldn't want their challenges, but I didn't create their challenges. They created their challenges. I've gone through some pretty horrific hells in my life. Like, I've shared some of them, but, I'm the only person in my family who has survived. I have a brother and a sister, to my knowledge. I haven't talked to my brother, and I probably never will again in this lifetime. Last I heard, he was homeless. But I have a sister and a brother, and they're both dealing with a lot of really difficult, I believe, self-generated issues. I'm the only person in the family who survived. My father died of alcoholism. My mother died however she died. I'm the only person that is fully functional. And it's because I have refused. I have refused to let anything get between me and my happiness. And that has not been an easy thing to do. So I hear when you give me all of your stories, I relate. I've been there. That's why I'm so quick to jump in there and tell you, here's what you can do to fix that. When people start telling me that they can't go after their soul desire, and they give me a laundry list of all the reasons why they can't follow their soul desire, while I understand and I empathize, I will never co-sign that for you. And I will always reflect back to you that if you want to be happy, here's what you want, here's what to do. And if you don't want to do it, I can't stop you. But I can't change reality. This is reality. This is how it works. Some people, it's going to be more difficult than for others. Okay, so I got off on a tangent there. All right, so let's see if there are any questions now. All right, so let's see here. Russo Van Royen. All right, so I don't see a question there. I don't see a question there either. All right. Russo Van Royen question. Is a God then the underlying program that operates the laws of the universe? Man, there's a lot of thinking going on in there. How does that information help you achieve your soul desire? I don't know you, but it sounds like you've been smoking a lot of pot and you're intellectualizing. Imagine somebody taking a big hit. So, like, is a God then the underlying program that operates the laws of this universe, man? And the soul of a being that is from beyond this? It's really intellectualized. Sorry, I'm not. I was making fun of you, but it's not my intention to hurt your feelings. Did we come here by the assistance of the gods? So I guess what you're asking me is kind of a Christian question. Did God create you? No. You created yourself. You created yourself. Russo Van Royen question. Did the gods have intention of working with us both to let the soul grow but to keep itself alive? So I can't get past your obsession with the role that the gods have with you. So I can't really answer those questions. Number one, because I don't care about them. But number two, you're distracting yourself from what it is you really want to know. And what you really want to know is, did you create yourself? And do you have control over your own existence? That's what I hear in that question. Here's what I see the role of the gods being. The gods, this is what was different yesterday. Elves are humans. Dwarves are proto-humans. We are in the middle. We're on the way. We were dwarves. We're going to become elves. Gods and demons are not our fate or our history. I'll say it again. Elves are our destiny, dwarves are our past. Gods and demons are not our history or our destiny. They are influenced or created. One could very easily say that we created the gods. And one could very easily say clearly that we created the demons. They are projections. They are psychological projections. Now, it doesn't mean that they don't exist. They do exist, and they have their own existence. This is how we live in a hologram. It can be both of those things. The gods have their own independent existence, and yet they are projections from within us. Demons have their own independent existence, and yet they are our own projections. Elves are not our projections, they are our destiny. Dwarves are not our projections, they are our influence up until this moment. So this is the difference between the north, west, and the southeast versus the northeast and the southwest. And this is why the energy doesn't go both ways. It only goes from northeast to southwest. So the best way to make use of the gods is to let them inspire you to become the best person you can be. Really, to inspire you to follow your highest dharma, orlog, destiny. Become your own. Eventually, you want to become your own God and worship yourself. Worship your highest essence. Become aware of what that is. So I'm worshiping a deity right now. I won't tell you who it is because, by the way, you shouldn't talk to other people about your worship. Not because there's anything wrong with it, but because your ego gets involved, and you don't want your ego to get involved when you talk about your vows or your worship. But I'm worshiping a deity that I can see myself being almost transforming into that deity. So that's how you use the Northeast, to inspire you to follow your highest destiny in this life. So that's why I don't worry about did gods create us or what's the underlying program. I mean, to me, listen, maybe somebody else out there finds that interesting and there's another teacher that can help you with that. To me, that just sounds like a bunch of intellectualized gobbledygook. It's not helpful. I don't see how that question helps you follow your highest path in this life. All right, let's see, what else? I could be wrong, though. That's why there's other teachers out there. There's a teacher out there for everybody. RMS 1754 question. Does the practice of celestial Qigong, Qigong, I call it Negong. And for that, we go here to qigong.thunderwizard.com if you want to find out what this person is talking about. Does the practice of celestial Negong, medicine wheel, so there's another practice called medicine wheel Qigong, which you can go to videos.michaelwilliamdenney.com and look for medicine wheel Qigong. So does the practice of celestial Qigong, medicine wheel, and rune meditation generally open up better communication with the subconscious? Are you confusing the subconscious with the unconscious? The majority of the time that people use the word subconscious, they mean unconscious. There's conscious, subconscious, and unconscious. So do those things open up better communication with the subconscious? Yes. It also opens up better communication with the unconscious, meaning you become aware. Once you become aware of something, it's no longer unconscious. And then you can take deliberate action about it. You can't take deliberate action on something if it's unconscious. This is why we can look at other people who are clearly in conflict and creating all kinds of misery for themselves. And they say, I remember once, when I was in my 20s, one of my friends having a temper tantrum because one of his friends got, I think got a job as a waiter, and he wanted that job, and he had a temper tantrum, and he said, "Nothing ever works for me." I feel for him because I've been there, but that's a sign of somebody who's unconscious of how they're sabotaging themselves. Once you become aware of how you sabotage yourself, then you don't have to have that temper tantrum. But until you do, it feels like that. It feels like there's some force beyond, your understanding that is preventing you from enjoying life. But it's just you on an unconscious level. So the short answer is that doing all of those things will, yes, open up better communication with both your subconscious and your unconscious. And so I recommend them for that reason. That's why I teach them. Everything I teach you is to help you gain awareness so that you can take deliberate action towards your highest happiness. It's the point of everything that I teach. Mad Sweeney's Beer question. When the 40-day mantra we receive on our Vedic astrology reading, astrology.thunderwizard.com, that's what he's talking about there. When the 40-day mantra we receive in our Vedic is finished, is it okay to continue it indefinitely? Yes, thank you for asking that. I try to remember, sometimes I forget, but I try to remember to tell people that when they're done with their 40-day discipline, that then, give it a week or two, and then come back, and you can either keep doing your mantra or doing the mantra and the ritual together in the same way that people go to the gym. Once they found an exercise routine that works for them, or vitamin C. Wow, I've been taking vitamin C and I feel so much better. You can do it every day for that reason. And then what you do is every now and then when you want to really ratchet things up and make some more progress in your life, then do another 40-day ritual with a clear intention. Quit smoking, lose weight, become famous, whatever it is. The reason why this works is because astrology.thunderwizard.com is that mantra is like a antivirus program. Your unconscious issues that you're not aware of, your unconscious self-sabotage routines, your fears, your false assumptions, all of those things are working underneath your conscious awareness. Like I said in the example of my friend who thought that the world was out to get him, but we all could see how he was screwing himself up, but he couldn't see it. Mantra goes in and acts like an antivirus program. It's important to know, though, that not just any mantra will do. This is one of the failings of a lot of Hindu teachers that just throw out mantras. They're not skilled in Vedic astrology, and they don't know the planetary influences of the mantra. So, I learned this from a Vedic astrologer, and that's how I got into Vedic astrology. Was I was doing all these mantras, and I was getting limited or sometimes even, no results. And I'm like, how does this stuff work? And I had this intuition that I knew there was something about mantra. That's because I have Ketu in the 5th house, which means I've mastered mantra in a previous life. There was something about mantra that I knew that could fix the progression of my life. And so I went to a Vedic astrologer and I told him what I was looking for. I said, oh, that's one of my specialties. And he's the one that helped teach me a lot of things. I've since picked up some things on my own even. I've gone past some. Not that I know everything that he knows, because I don't. But what I've learned is that if you have an astrologer who knows how to look at your chart and can give you a precise mantra with the precise deity and the precise seed sound and all of that together, it's like taking the perfect, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like taking the perfect prescription medication, Like before there was penicillin, people were dying of, all kinds of bacterial infections. Had they just had this one, fungus, which in and of itself isn't all that great for you, but you take it, it'll kill all that stuff, and then you'll be able to live forever, right? They would have been so happy. Mantra is like that, except it doesn't have the negative side effects of antibiotics. So that's the benefit of this. If you don't want to pay for an astrology reading, then you can chant this mantra. There are a few all-purpose mantras like Om Namah Shivaya. That's sort of like taking vitamin C. Everybody should take vitamin C. It's good for you. All right, so did I answer your question? I think I did. So Brandon Little's trying to type out a question, but I'll give him some time. I can't see it there. Silvana Ivanda question, have you come in contact with the elves? Yes, I have, and so have you. Maybe not in the way that you're wanting to ask me. Maybe you think that I'm going to talk to you about how they appeared before me. And anytime that you have a feeling where you become aware that a pattern in your life is not only not helpful for you, but you become aware of how your actions become destructive to others. That's the elves. That's how the elves communicate. They never give any advice without helping you to see how your awareness is intimately linked with the awareness of all other sentient beings in the universe. And they will show you how that when you act destructively towards yourself, it vibrates out and harms others in some way. That's how you know you're talking to the elves. You don't have to go through any big thing. You can face the northwest and just breathe deeply and light some incense and play some music and just ask, show me how I can improve my life. And if you're quiet, you will slowly start to get this very subtle, you'll feel like you're sort of thinking, oh, now I see that, but it's them sort of helping you. They're very low key. They're not going to explode, fireworks in front of your face. That's what the gods do. The gods will explode fireworks in front of your face and fill you with zeal and righteousness. The elves will give you compassion and objectivity. And there is a ritual here, the elf ritual on my channel again. If you ask that question, you have not been on my channel for long, welcome. Go onto my channel, learn how to search within my videos and look for elf ritual. There's two videos that will teach you how to have your own experience with the ascended masters of the elves. Mad Sweeney's Beer question. Any mantras to help with oversharing, such as you were talking about with not talking about our practice? If you get the right mantra for you, that'll fix it. So by you asking that question, have you gotten? No, you have. It sounds like you've gotten a reading from either me or one of my apprentices. So the mantra that you have will help you with that. I don't understand that. There's something about that's not really your issue. You've said that before about talking too much. I'm not saying that you don't talk too much. That might be true. There's something else about that. Stop worrying about it. You get in touch with your own integrity. That's a boundary problem. If you can't keep things to yourselves, it means that you don't have, boundaries. So your mantra will help you with your own boundaries. Qigong is good for boundaries. Anyway, that's my thought about that. Brandon Little question, what benefit would one get by learning a fair balance of the gods over the demons? I don't understand your question. It sounds very intellectualized to me. What we're talking about today is not having your unconscious, unresolved issues come out into your life and control you. The gods represent the highest conscious awareness. Tiu especially. The god Tiu. No, I didn't say that. I said Tiu. The god Tiu or the god Tyr is the same deity. That's why his rune is the arrow pointing up. The arrow pointing up represents the pole that holds up the highest heaven, represents the North Star. It represents your highest chakra. So being aware will help you to keep balance in your unconscious mind. When you are not aware, when you're out of alignment, then your unconscious garbage comes out into your world, in some cases, in the form of demons or ghosts. There's never anybody that I've worked with who has ghost problems or demon problems who also is not having major unresolved unconscious issues that have to be dealt with, that are so traumatic and so horrific that if they don't deal with them, they create demons and ghosts in order to distract themselves from it. And he continues on, learning more about demons as a shaman as to keep balance between person and spirit. These sound like really intellectualized concepts, and you don't need to worry about that. The only thing you need to worry about is, are you in alignment with your soul desire? And I've given you the book to read if you haven't read it. So if you're new to the channel, welcome to the channel. Please watch more of my videos. 95% of your questions will be answered by them. Read my books. If you're one of those people that comes onto the Q&A and you don't read the books and you don't watch the videos, then you're doing yourself a big disservice. One of the main focuses of this Q&A is for people who have been studying the things that I teach, and then they can ask educated questions that will really you want to really open me up and get me really talking in detail about stuff. Ask questions about stuff I teach. That's the best way to make use of me. And this is free time. I normally charge money for my time. This is free time. You got me, for free. And I will go off and talk for hours about your question. That's the best way to make use of it. Having said that, I welcome all questions, and everybody's welcome here. Russo Van Royen question. Once I have heard of Shiva being an ultimate force of destruction, similar to what you have described as being the Gununga gap. Is this what shows you your ultimate truth? See, any question that goes beyond one sentence is overthought. You're thinking too much. If I have to squint and try and figure out what you're asking me, you're thinking too much. You're asking me, does destruction show you your ultimate truth? What do you mean ultimate? Why is everything in these highly, extremes the ultimate truth? Why does it have to be the ultimate truth? There is no such thing as ultimate truth. There is just your truth, right here and right now. Your ultimate truth is what gives you the greatest joy. So I don't really have an answer to your question because it has a bunch of assumptions that I don't agree with, in my experience. Your questions sound like you're trying to escape your essence. You're already everything. You're already the ultimate force of destruction, the ultimate truth. You're already your ultimate self. Be that. RMS 1754 question. When approaching the runes for meditation, assuming we always come with an hang on. Assuming we always come with unselfish motives, why are you trying to force feed me that assumption? How do I know that you always come with unselfish motives? Let me say this. If you use the runes for your own personal divination and you come to it with unselfish motives, I will bow before your lotus feet because I can't do that. In fact, the only time I ever use rune divination for myself is when I have a selfish motive. So I don't know where, I think you're in denial. It's okay. It's all right if you have a selfish motive. I'm okay with that. Are there any runes that are approached with caution, such as Thurisaj? So RMS 1754, you strike me as somebody who's new to my channel. Read my books. You obviously haven't read my rune books, or if you have, you missed the many times where I've said there's no such thing as a negative rune. even if a rune is reversed. There's no such thing as a negative rune. There are challenging runes, but there's no such thing as a negative one. You know, that are the runes that should be approached with caution, such as Thurisaz. That I can tell you've already got that understanding from somebody else's interpretation of the runes. And in my books, I go at length attacking some of the nonsensical teachings that are out there about runes. And that's one of them. That's such a superficial misunderstanding of thorn. One of the names for the Thurisaz rune is thorn. And so somebody doesn't understand that that Thurisaz is thorny because it is protecting you from others. So it's only a danger to those who want to violate your boundaries. Then it's a thorn. Okay? So do me a favor so that I can best help you. Read my books on the runes. You can go on to my Michael William Denney.com and you'll see all of my rune books. Buy them, read them. Then I can better help you. All right, so let's see here. Rosalind Gabriel, your message has been held for review. Nobody else sees it. I see it. Actually, it's not a question, it's a personal attack. Nobody else sees it, but I see it. And when you do that, YouTube automatically puts it in review and asks me, do I want to show it or hide it? So nobody else can read it. And actually what you've said is, I mean, if I were to say it, it's so incredibly cruel. Really, it's one of the cruelest things anybody's ever said to me. It's a really horrible thing to say. I'm not even going to repeat it. But I have this wonderful little thing on the side which says I can report you, I can put you in a timeout, I can hide user, which means I can block you from being able to comment. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use my great power of control and say, welcome to the channel. Please feel free to come back and watch, but you have now been denied the ability to comment ever again. Let's all say goodbye to Rosalind Gabriel. Wave goodbye. Bye-bye. Okay. Let's see what else here. Mad Sweeney's Beer question. Where do I get the spell of the 9 knots? You can go to, again, Michael, well, let's see. Hopefully it should be here, videos.thunderwizard, actually, videos.michaelwilliamdenney.com. Let me double check that before I put that there, videos. I mean, it's in the, you know, whenever I take a break, all those URLs, it's in the URL there. I just don't remember what it is. Videos.michaelwilliamdenney.com. There it is. So, yep. Anglo-Saxon Shamanism, Spell of the 9 Knots. So that's where you go to find out and to get that DVD, The Spell of the 9 Knots. It's one of the most powerful shamanic rituals that I've ever experienced. Yeah, I'm still really just that person's comment. I mean, I'm not going to tell you what it was. It was really horrifically cruel. I'm still, you know, by the way, if your intention was to hurt me, you did a really good job. It was really hurtful. Brought up a lot of really horrible thoughts and memories. And it makes me ask, why would you do that? How does that benefit you? How does making me want to cry right now benefit you? You know, what you accused me of is what they call, that's what I call projection. Let me, Spell of the 9 Knots. So that's what you're going to look for, Spell of the 9 Knots. So I forget your name, Rosalind Gabriel. I want you to look up this phrase. Go and Google it right now. It's called psychological projection. Your comment was the epitome of psychological projection. The very thing that you were projecting onto me. You know, it's like, you know when somebody's cheating on you. You know how when somebody, the way you know that your partner is cheating on you is when they demand to see your phone and that they are constantly accusing you of cheating on them. That's one of the ways you know somebody's cheating on you. Not every time, but it's called projection. It's when you're feeling guilty about what you're doing and you project it on around you. Yeah, that was just pure projection. The bile that came out of you was really awful. So we're all guilty of it, though, myself included. All right, I don't see any more questions here. So I'm going to take a little bit of a break and come back, and if there's other questions, I'll answer them. Otherwise, I'll try and come up with something to say, and we'll call it an evening. All right, be right back. All right, we're back. I don't think I saw any more questions here. Shaman EMME number 333. I'm willing to bet this is your first time on the channel. If so, welcome. I only take questions, but what you say here is that thanks for being available. I have more questions. I like to email you though. Okay, so my private email I reserve for paying students and paying clients. The reason I do that is because if I allowed people to email me with all of their questions, I would never get anything done. So the best way to ask questions is on this forum. You can ask questions here on the Q&A. You can also ask questions in the video comments section. If you watch a video, you can type a question in there. I try to respond to all of the questions. And my other experience is please go onto my channel, watch all of the videos, that you binge watch my videos. That will probably answer all of your questions that you would want to ask me in an email anyway, more than likely. If you feel you need to connect with me and you feel that you have a destiny or something to work with me and connect with me that way, then go to thunderwizard.com and subscribe at whatever level you want and or is available. And that's how you can learn from it. You can also learn shamanism from the ground up, where I teach the basics starting from A to Z, including energy work, runes, ritual, mantra. I talk about all kinds of stuff on there. So that's the best way for me to teach shamanism to somebody. And again, that will probably answer all of your questions. Okay? Yeah, so shaman, the best way to communicate with me is with a question. If you're new to this, I don't take, just statements here. You say you've been experiencing mind issues, spiritual attacks, and other problems. The only way for me to help you with that is in a private session. Even if I wanted to, I wouldn't be able to help you online or in email with that. You need to have a private session in order for me to help you. Russo Van Rooyen question, what is amethyst helpful with? Well, from what people have been saying, amethyst, this is a big amethyst, given to me by my partner. She gave this to me for our anniversary. Amethyst is good for healing in general. It's a good healing stone. It is good for, apparently it is good for people who are dealing with addiction. Now, please don't go out and get a bunch of amethysts if you are an addict or an alcoholic. Get yourself to a 12-step group like Narcotics Anonymous or Alcoholics Anonymous, or check yourself into a hospital. That's the fastest way to heal from addiction. But these are supposed to help with addiction and temptation as well as healing. Amethyst is from it works with the planet Saturn, which is the planet of karma and lessons. And by, if you have a strong connection with Saturn and Saturn is guiding you to your highest destiny, then wearing an amethyst around your neck is one of the things that will be helpful for you. Go to astrology.thunderwizard.com to find out which stone is right for you. Mine is Moon. That's what I wear around my neck, because I have Moon is the planet that guides me to my highest destiny. All right, so please, Shaman EMME 333, please restrict your comments to questions only. If you want to ask me a question, write question and ask a question. Otherwise, please refrain from just typing in stuff. Takes away from my ability to help others who have questions. Aha User Kaf. Let me see. All right, Aha User Kaf. Question. I got a reading from one of your certified students, and my Gemini is in the South Node. That doesn't make sense. Your South Node is in Gemini. Your Gemini is not in the South Node. What does this mean? Ask them. I didn't take your reading. I don't have your chart in front of me. So I can't answer that. And if they're the ones that took the time to give the reading to you and you have other questions, you should probably get another session with them to help them help you. But from that question, I can't, I would need to know what house it's in. I would need to know, what the other planetary aspects are. From that, I can't, there's not enough information for me to help you. I need to look at your chart. Okay. Aha Yusrakov, where can I find red coral? I'm assuming you mean for your Dharma Devata pendant. Go onto Amazon or onto eBay and type in red coral pendant, and all kinds of things will come up. That's where I get, most of my stuff here. Like these are gifts. A couple of these are, this is a gift. This was a gift. The rest of the stuff, including this one, I got on eBay, and I just did that. I typed in moonstone silver pendant, and this was one of the ones that came up, and I liked it, so I bought it. Okay, so Shaman EME 333, you're not respecting my requests. I'll put you in a timeout. Please only type in questions. Otherwise, you take time away from other people. It doesn't help you, and it doesn't help me to help you. Okay, there we go. All right. Those are all the questions. I don't see any more questions. I will talk a little bit. Let's see. I'm still reeling. Gosh, you know, I think that I get really good at dealing with hecklers, but that one, you know, here's the thing about predators. Here's the thing about predators and about, you know, people who have really major issues. They are usually extremely good at sniffing out what your issues are. And they're usually really good at using them against you. They have a psychic ability. You know, like you know, the example is, who is that? Silence of the Lambs. What is the guy's name? Anyway, serial killers are really good at this. That's how you know a serial killer mindset, is that they are able to sniff out your unconscious issues and then use them against you. And they bring them out in really destructive ways. You didn't see what this person wrote, and I'm not even going to repeat it, but it was so cruel, and it just, you know, it just makes me think that, you know, it makes me feel sorry. It makes me feel pity. You know, that person is in that much pain that they, you know, would even think to say something like that to me. It was really awful. Really awful. But we're talking about the Southwest. That's the kind of stuff that comes out of the Southwest. So just by even me talking about it, I have to deal with it. That's just my karma as a teacher. Mysteries of the Universe question. Rahu in Virgo in my first house is my Dharma Devata. Is there any information you can share that can help me with working with Rahu and heal my unconscious mind? Rahu in the first house means that you're obsessed with your own identity. You want people to see who you are. You're obsessed with it. Rahu in the first house, at the same time, you know, clouds you from your identity, because Rahu is smoke. Rahu in Virgo makes you extremely deep thinker. Virgo is Gemini, Virgo is Mercury. In Gemini is the teacher who's out expounding the truth, and Virgo is the student who's looking in the books for the deep secrets. So Rahu in Virgo makes you a very deep thinker. It's your Dharma Devata as well. So that means worshiping Rahu will help you. Most people can't worship Rahu, but you can. That means that the trickster wants to show you the secrets behind everything. If you are able to get past your own self-sabotage, which Rahu will first try to fool you into going down false paths. And the reason Rahu is doing that is so you'll catch yourself. And you'll go, I'm going to follow my highest destiny. I'm not going to get lost in that. When you do that, Rahu says, there you go. Now that you passed the test, let me show you what's behind the curtain. I'll show you what other people can't see. So in order to heal your unconscious mind, do the ritual that was given to you. I don't know if you got a reading from me. I don't know if you got it from me or one of my apprentices. If you did, please go ahead and do the mantra and the ritual that was given to you. That will do exactly what you're asking. Okay? All right, I don't see any more questions here. I am going to call it an evening. Been on for almost 2 hours. So I've been getting a lot of questions about the astrology certification. I believe it's astrology certification. Why isn't that working? Astrology certification .thunderwizard.com. I've also been getting a lot of questions about the rune certification, which I believe is rune certification. Wait, do I have it here? Do I have it here? I don't think so. Nope. Where was I? Rune certification .thunderwizard.com. So I've been getting a lot of questions about that. So go and learn about that. And thunderwizard.com. Thunderwizard.com is the main focus of this channel. So if you're watching these videos and you get something from these videos and you want to go even deeper and learn what's underneath the questions that I'm talking about, go to thunderwizard.com, and even if you subscribe at the $25 level, you will get, I don't even know how many videos that will go into much deeper depth than I'm able to go through in some of the free videos here, okay? And that's, by the way, the best way to support the channel. If you just want to support the channel, go there and subscribe at whatever level you're comfortable with. Looks like there's a last question here. Gremner Thomas, question. I have difficulty when constructing things in my mind. Any suggestions with this issue? I don't know what that means. And I don't know that I agree with your assumption that you need to construct things in your mind. I mean, some people can do that. Some people are different than others. Some people have that ability and some people don't. Maybe that's not what you're meant to do. It makes me want to ask you all kinds of questions about why you want to do that. Is there some control issue? Do you feel that, I could be totally wrong, but it makes me want to ask a bunch of questions. But I don't have any suggestions because it's not really a skill that I have. So you'd have to ask somebody who was good at building mind palaces, like Sherlock Holmes builds a mind palace. So I don't do that, but it's a really interesting thing. You should find somebody who knows how to do that. They can help you with that. I cannot. All right then, my friends, that is all the time I'm going to give to you this evening. Maybe I'll come on tomorrow and we'll talk about the last. We've done the two, the diagonal, and maybe I'll come on tomorrow and talk about the East versus the West. Boundaries versus giving. Maybe I'll talk about that tomorrow, unless something else comes up. In which case, you won't see me tomorrow, but I'm thinking about doing that. So in any case. All right, my friends, I will see you the next time. Good evening. Saturday evening here on my end as I'm recording this. And so today we are going to continue in our series of looking at how our dimension of human beings is influenced by the dimensions of the other entities among whom we live. And yesterday we talked about dwarves, elves, and men. And we talked about how that is the evolutionary track for the human soul. We talked about what dwarves really are when you go back into the original indigenous spirituality of our pre-Christian ancestors. We talked about what elves are